Are you ready? Okay. Hey, I'm the beauty professor, and you can find my beauty blog at beautyprofessor.com. I'm excited to do a Q&A for you guys. This has been something that's been requested for quite a while, and so I'm going to be addressing all of the questions that you submitted to me via email and on Instagram and direct message this week. Thank you guys for submitting them. I was definitely inspired by the things you were asking me, and I can't wait to address all of that now. I'm showing you Joey real fast because many of you asked where she was in my last video. Say hey! She's definitely growing up. Good girl. I hope you guys are doing really well and enjoying your fall. I know the season is kind of in full swing now. We're heading into midterms at the college, and I feel like this point all the way into the end of the year is going to be a lot like a runaway train in terms of all the stuff that's happening and going on. We're just kind of moving from weekend to weekend with events and activities, and before we know it, it's going to be 2020. That's crazy to me. But that being said, I'm grateful for every moment and experience, and I hope you're feeling the same way. The way that I compiled my list of questions was to, of course, read over everything that was submitted. I had a little snafu on Instagram with certain things that got submitted and then disappeared, and I wasn't able to lift them before they disappeared, so I had to put a call out again for more questions that are distinct, that cover, of course, your questions in beauty and skincare and even fitness, but also just in my day-to-day life. Maybe information that I don't get a chance to really address when I'm doing tutorials or product reviews. So hopefully this feels really balanced and gives you a better flavor of who I am as a person within Beauty Professor, and of course outside of that as well. So the first question is, what is my dream job? And I feel wildly grateful to be able to say that I basically have my dream job at this point. I am a college professor. I'm headed into my 4th year and final year of the tenure process. I actually wrapped that process and earned tenure in the spring of 2020. And being able to teach in an environment where I'm able to help my students be better communicators and more confident in the way they use their voices, that is just like the ultimate gift for me. It's something I've done for a really long time, well before I ever started Beauty Professor. And to be in this very steady position at a college in my area is just such a blessing. I'm super grateful for that. Also, the other part of a dream job for me would be having some kind of creative component where I'm able to do stuff on my own time. I actually had started Beauty Professor after co-authoring a public speaking textbook almost 8 years ago, and I was, going through this publishing phase where I was beholden to an amazing editorial team that had very strict deadlines for us. And when I finished, I had all this writing energy, but I wanted to just write when I wanted, and that's when I started the blog. But being able to be creative in this way and still have a business and still reach an audience, I mean, that is the ultimate for me. So I've met many of you through Beauty Professor, connected with you on social media and in email, and I just couldn't be happier for the way in which this idea of mine, which really just came from a passion for makeup, expensive makeup that I was finally at a point to be able to kind of buy in little bits once I finished paying my way through college and got a full-time job. That is just wild to me because I had no conceptualization that it could turn into anything, and certainly it's been an 8-year endeavor that has become an integral part of my life. So the combination of academia and beauty writing, I found it to be really complementary to each other. I'm able to bring in a lot of what I do in Beauty Professor into my classes, talking about social media and PR and negotiation and how to build your brand. I mean, that's stuff that we cover in the classroom, and I'm living it day to day. So I am very grateful to have that complementarity between the two dualities of my job. This next question is makeup related, and it's, if somebody told you you could only have one Tom Ford eyeshadow quad, what would it be? And thankfully, that's a really easy answer for me. It would be the African Violet quad, which I bought last year. I was super intrigued with the colors, purple and bronze and gold and a little bit deeper shade of brown. The colors I feel like really balance the line between being kind of adventurous and exotic and also just like a good everyday eye. You can layer those tones to make it very day-to-day, but you can also amplify them for a little bit more dramatic editorial look. So it's my go-to Tom Ford palette. I mean, there are others in that lineup that I love, but African Violet without question. And I feel like the tones in that palette would complement a spectrum of eye color as well. So I think it's got some universal appeal while still feeling really unusual and unique. The next question is, how do you balance your work, I'm referencing my computer right now, motherhood, and what you do in the beauty industry? My answer to that is I'm not sure. I do my best to embrace a balance, but I feel like it's a day-to-day learning process, and often I'm flying by the seat of my pants, if I'm being honest. It's a lot, and I think so many of us are doing many different things, and so we can relate to that eternal juggle, that idea that, okay, next week will be the calm week. Once I get through all this stuff, I'll take a breather and it'll be calm and I can just relax and enjoy. And then the next week is not like that. It's still busy and complex. And then before you know it, years have gone by. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because there's so much beauty in the day-to-day, but it's definitely not calm around here. There's a lot of just like, oh, what's next on the to-do list? I do have a planner. I write in a paper planner, and I've done that for years and years and years since college. I get a new one every year, and it's very basic, but it lets me kind of record everything I've done and a to-do list of what I need to do and write down important dates. And so that helps me to keep my brain somewhat compartmentalized and organized, but everything else, I mean, deadlines for beauty writing and projects, that's its own thing. Of course, I want to be 100% present with Joey. Watching her even grow into a 14-month, almost 15-month-old baby, it was like a flash, as everyone told me it would be. So that's my priority, is to be in the moment with her. And then of course I have a job that requires me to be on campus and grade and be there for my students, and then family and relationships, my husband. We're all just trying to figure it out. I have a really strong support system in my parents, who watch Joey on the days that I'm on campus, and I am so grateful she gets to be with them, and they love being with her, and everyone's close. So I have help. My husband is a huge, a life partner for me. We're partners in everything that we have to do in the house, with our family, with our jobs. We're just kind of looking out for each other and having each other's backs. So I'm definitely not doing any of this alone, but doing my best with each of the things that have kind of been vested to me in this life. The next question is, are you ever overwhelmed by all of the new beauty and skincare launches? Absolutely. The launches, I feel, have ramped up over the years. I mean, a brand used to have seasonal launches. Maybe 4 times a year you'd see a fresh collection based on the seasons, and that was predictable and lovely, and you look forward to it. And there has been such an increase, exponentially speaking, in what a brand needs to release in order to be seen, to get optics on social media. And I do think social media is a huge part of that need to be seen and have something fresh to offer so that you do get exposure as a brand. And so it's just created this onslaught of releases. That's a tough thing as a beauty writer, and as somebody who loves beauty, it's a tough thing to metabolize, and I know I'm not alone in that. I hear that from my followers, my readers, my fellow beauty writers, that we're all just kind of like climbing out of this crazy hole, this pit of launches, and trying to stay on top of them, which is basically impossible. I appreciate the newness. I love innovation. I certainly want to see that brands are creating things, but I kind of wish it would slow down a little bit so we could really relish the formulas and play with them for a while before we have to weigh in or before we have to get to the next thing. The next question is, what do I teach? And I feel like I've mentioned it in different capacities and certainly answered questions when they're in the comment section of my videos. I teach communication studies, which focuses chiefly on public speaking. I teach mediation and negotiation. I teach organizational communication, which involves public relations, social media, interview skills, resume building, and business communication in general. Then I also teach mass comm, so journalism, media, radio, television, and film. and I teach most of my classes in person, but a couple of them is, do you guys have any interest in me doing any kind of specialized videos that have to do with communication, public speaking, best practices and tips for interviews, stuff like that? I'm wondering if that kind of content ever, as a deviation of my specific beauty content, my typical tutorials or beauty talk, if that would be of interest to you guys, bringing some of those elements into play. So let me know in the comments box below. The next question is, how would you describe your beauty aesthetic? We'll describe my aesthetic by what I love in terms of products, what I'm finding myself always gravitating towards. Of course, foundation is major for me. It's one of the reasons I started Beauty Professor. I had tried so many foundations by the time I started the blog that I just wanted to share all of these formulas with other people who felt passionately about foundation. And so I was always swatching, and I still really care about that. I try to do full shade ranges of swatches as much as I can have a brand work with me to allow me to do, because I want to be as inclusive as possible so that people can find their own shade, which is usually a daunting task, especially if you're doing it just online. But I love foundation. I like nice even skin that still looks like your skin, but a perfected version if possible. And I like a nice bronzy toned cheek. Sometimes I skip blush entirely and just settle with bronzer and some highlighter, which is what I've done today. And a warm neutral eye. Sometimes a peachy pink neutral eye, one of the two. Some very natural bushy brows. It's funny, I got a comment in my last video saying that my brows were neglected and way too bushy. They are bushy, they're mine. I've always had these brows. They're my natural brows, and I do very little to them except for the Tom Ford Brow Gel, which I talk about ad nauseum. I love it so much. But I like a natural brow. Everyone's different. So it's kind of a live and let live thing for me, and I hope it is for everyone else. Lips, I like a pinky nude. This is a little bit deeper than my old school nudes that I used to embrace, and I have definitely gotten a little more adventurous with reds and brighter pinks and corals. But by and large, this face today is my go-to, and I like the best version of yourself kind of makeup that you can still do in under 10 minutes. Half the time I'm doing makeup in the car right before I get out and go teach. So when I'm picking out formulas, they need to be formulas that last all day, that can be applied on the go, that aren't high maintenance, but are still friendly and kind to sensitive skin. And this look right here that I feel has pretty much been my look for many, many years. It's kind of hopefully timeless and classic, and it's what I go for. But I'm always willing to experiment as well. This next question is more relationally driven. It asks me who I am closest to. And I've been married for years now, and so of course my husband and I are super close. We're very close friends before we got engaged and then ultimately married, and we're best friends to this. I'm also extremely close with my parents and my brother. Who's a best friend as well. We are a very close nuclear family in that regard. We spend a lot of time together. We've gone on vacations together. We talk to each other every day. We live down the street from each other, and so we see each other all the time. I know not everyone's family is like that, but I feel, personally for me, really blessed and grateful that that is the case, where family that also happen to be close friends. And I'm also really close with my grandmother. And watching her with Joey having a great grandmother, it just like the combination of it always just melts my heart. Next question is, do I have an exercise program? Not exactly. I know that it's a good idea to make sure I'm moving around and exercising regularly, and so that's a goal. But I don't regularly go to the gym. I have a gym membership. I haven't used it in months. I do like to try to just do squats and like jump squats on my own, and there are some weeks where I'm on it and other weeks where it doesn't happen at all. So I wouldn't say consistency is chief in this situation. Over summer, I was working out with my dad, who is a kinesiology specialist, and he was kind of personal training me, which was really cool when I had a little more time and a lot of focus to want to do this. But I haven't been working out lately. I kind of feel like I stand a lot when I'm teaching. I'll stand for 6 or 7 hours at a time, usually wearing heels. I'm running around, like doing a lot of walking, and of course chasing Joey, who's walking now, all around the house, carrying her. So I feel like just having a 1-year-old has made me stronger and, you know, physically stronger and more toned, but it's one of my resolutions for the next few months is to be a little more serious about a physical program so that I'm being as respectful of my body as possible as the years continue. The next question is, what do I eat? Do I have a special diet? And once again, no, I was raised not eating any refined sugar or white flour. I had a very, very healthy diet growing up, and it wasn't the norm. My parents had this vision for feeding my brother and I really healthy at a time when that wasn't particularly common. I think today it's like everyone's got their own way of eating, and it's not uncommon to hear that someone has a really strict diet just because of health reasons. For us at that time, it was different, but I'm glad. I think it built fortitude. It certainly kept us really healthy, and I embrace a lot of those eating habits today. I have a very low tolerance for sugar, so I can eat refined sugar, but I take a few bites of something and I'm kind of over it. I don't think I ever developed that taste per se. I am a huge fan, however, of carbs. I love bread. I will try to eat whole wheat bread as much as possible. I like it. So that's usually my go-to, but I'll have other types of bread if I'm out or at a restaurant. Also, I adore dairy. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see me eating cheese or talking about cheese or butter. It's a part of my eating habits. I try to eat organic dairy if possible. I buy that, but if we're out, I'll eat whatever dairy is in front of me. So I love cheese. I like pasta. I try to limit myself to like 1 pasta a week if possible, just to not have so many carbs. But otherwise, I don't really have a lot of restrictions. I like fruits and vegetables. I enjoy kale with a good salad dressing. I drink a ton of water, a lot of bubbly water that's unsweetened. Iced tea. I'm not a coffee drinker. I don't hate coffee. I'm not against it. I just don't love it. So, and that's kind of become more prominent as I've continued to get older. I just don't have the same taste bud enjoyment for it. And then in terms of like meat, I like chicken. I'll eat some fish, some red meat. That's it. I don't eat pork or shellfish. I'm being asked what matte eyeshadows I recommend for those who are feeling like they have crepey or wrinkly eyelids. And I mean, hey, that's going to be reality for all of us, and I get that. But there are some matte formulas that I really like. I think Natasha Denona makes a beautiful matte formula, very buttery and smooth and buildable. I love the Surratt matte eyeshadows. I think Jouer has some lovely matte shadows in their palettes. And I also really like the Tom Ford mattes. By and large, I think they're also high performance, blendable, and really respectful of all types of surfaces. The next question has to do with style tips. So she was asking me about like what kinds of style I gravitate towards to kind of have a put together look on a day-to-day basis, maybe for work. I tend to have a pretty basic style. By and large, like this is me. I'll wear monochromatic pieces. I like a classic straight leg jean with a little bit of a high waist. I love a good blazer, a clean cotton t-shirt, and I wear a ton of button downs. So I like men's button downs. I also buy a lot of blouses from Equipment France. And a lot of my Equipment silk blouses I have had for like years, 7 or 8 years, and I'll still wear them all the time. And so I try to buy pieces that are relatively timeless and classic, and that just tends to be my style in general anyway. I don't like things that are too tight. Sometimes a good bodysuit, might require that kind of fit, but otherwise I like things that have a little bit of give so I don't feel restricted. And I'll kind of give up that comfort maybe in a pair of jeans that are really like tight and high-waisted, but still have a good flow in them. The next question is, have I ever had short hair? Yes, I did have probably my shortest hair ever in graduate school. I was always a long hair girl. Even as a kid, I had long hair. My mom would put it into French braids, or I'd wear it in a ponytail. I wore it down a lot because it's pretty heavy. So sometimes if it was pulled tight back, it would give me a headache. So that being said, in graduate school, I convinced my mom to super trim it to about this place. She's been the only one who's ever cut my hair to this day. And so it was probably right back here. I liked it because it was like a fun experiment. It was different than anything I'd ever had before. And it dried a lot faster when I would wash my hair. But eventually I grew it out, and I have been pretty much long-haired ever since. I forgot, the other part of that question is, do I have any pictures to show me with short hair? Yes, I do, and I'll try to insert it in right now. You'll see that my hair was also very, very dark. At the time that I got it cut, I also experimented with coloring it for the first time in my life. And I went with very dark raven brown hair, raven black almost. I just was in that headspace of wanting to try something new. And so I got it colored. I really enjoyed the drama of that hair color. And it was unexpected, but it also took a lot of maintenance. It was growing, my hair grows pretty quickly, and so I was getting light roots. Every 3 weeks I was needing to go back to get it colored because the line of demarcation between my roots and this dark, dark hair was pretty obvious. So after about a year and a half, I decided to just go cold turkey and grow it out. It was intense, it was rough. That was another reason I was glad my hair grew quickly, because in about another year and a half, it was back to my normal color, and I've left it this way ever since. My 3 favorite lipsticks. Oh my gosh, that's a really tough one. I'm gonna go by what I know I can always grab and put on no matter what. I have more than 3 favorite lipsticks. That's a given. But lately, I wear a ton of the Pat McGrath Lady Stardust lipstick. It's kind of a pearly mid-toned pink. That's what I'm wearing right now with Pat McGrath Done Undone liner and a little Givenchy nude balm on top of it. It's a go-to combo for me when I'm in a rush. But I'm going to put the Pat McGrath lipstick in that mix. I also adore the Surratt Beauty Lip Sleek in Face Soie. It is a corally pale baby pink. It looks amazing over liner on its own. It's a little bit transparent. It's a lovely glaze. And I've bought multiple Face Soies over the years, like a ton of them. My 3rd favorite lip color, it's a tie between the Sisley Fido Lip Twist in Sugar, which I've gone through multiple tubes of. It's a great baby pink with a little more brightness and opacity. And also the Clé de Peau Radiant Rouge. Now, I have been a devotee of number 11, which has since been discontinued. I have stockpiled that color, however. But I get the same effect wearing a mixture of Sugar Glass in the new formula and also Cream Crush. It's a mixture of those two to get the same effect. So all in all, those are my go-tos. Are they all pinky nudes? Yes. This next question is skincare related. They're asking me if I enjoy layering skincare or if I use one product at a time. And really for me, that's kind of a seasonal answer. It depends on what I'm testing and the way I'm supposed to be using those products. I've used a ton of Augustinus Butter, multiple bottles of it, and that's really kind of a one product does it all kind of situation. So when I'm just using that in a hurry, that might be all I use along with some eye cream. Usually something from Clé de Peau or La Prairie. And that's what I'll stick with. Sometimes at night when I'm feeling ambitious, I'll use a toner, Biologique Recherche or SK2 or another type of toner I might be experimenting with. And so I'll layer like that. But in terms of like serum, on cream, on moisturizer, I don't do that. I don't feel like my skin needs that. And it feels like overkill to me. And I don't have the time, even if it was the best thing ever. The next question is, do I talk about / review everything that comes my way that's sent here as press samples? No, I do not. In fact, I really only talk about probably 10 to 15% of what comes my way. I say no a lot at this point. I'm not in this business for free product. I remember the first time a brand offered to send me free product at the beginning of Beauty Professor, and I was over the moon. I couldn't believe it was real life. I was like, what? This happens? I had no idea. But over time, I have super refined my interests in terms of what brands I cover and what's a natural fit for myself and for my audience. And I say no all the time if given the option for something to be sent my way if I know it's not going to be a good fit. With that, then I go ahead and test the product and decide if it's got if there's a good fit for it in content I'm creating, if it's something I'm wildly excited about that I want to share with you guys. Bottom line is this, because I'm only really talking about 15, maybe to 20% of what comes my way, you can trust that what I'm discussing, I've tested, I've experimented with, I've thought about how it might apply to a larger audience. I've shot it, I've swatched it, I've worn it on my face multiple times, and then I'm sharing it with you. So everything has been intensely vetted before it actually gets published. Unless I'm saying, hey, I'm trying this for the first time, at which point I will tell you right away. Otherwise, that's how it works. And all the other stuff that might come here, if it doesn't work for me, or it's not something that I feel is a match for what I'm doing, I'm happy to just send it along because we're all different and I want it to stay in circulation. And so I pass stuff along to students, to friends, to coworkers all the time. The next question is, what projects do I have coming up next for Beauty Professor, and who, if anyone, helps me with everything I do with and for Beauty Professor? So I'll answer the second part of that question first. The person who assists me is my mom, Laura. I'm sure if you follow me on social media, you've seen her many times over. She's often tagged in the photos that are taken. I shoot all of the product. She shoots all of the images of the product on me. She also helps me film my videos. We're at events together. She's helping me with the accounting side of things. I mean, it's a full-time business over here. It's turned into that, and I'm so grateful to have somebody that I'm close to and get along with and share the same aesthetic with and trust to be my partner in all of this. In terms of what's coming up next project-wise, I've got some good partnerships with brands that I can talk about when I can talk about them. Also, I'm going to be at the Nordstrom Trend Show at South Coast Plaza with a brand coming up next month in November, so I will share that as specifically as I can when I'm able. I wish I could say more about the specifics, but just like anything with business, until it's happening, until everything's signed, you're not supposed to really discuss. I'm serving as an expert evaluator for Indie Beauty Expo again for their LA version, where I'll be ranking products and helping with them with their awards, stuff like that. And I just feel like those kinds of opportunities, you know, they're once again beyond my wildest imagination that's the position I would be in now. But I'm grateful and excited to be able to use my beauty knowledge in that way. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, very chatty. It couldn't have been done without your questions. So I thank you for submitting them on pretty short notice. So I hope it added some dimension to what I'm doing over here at Beauty Professor. It's my absolute joy to be able to share this stuff with you. And thank you so much for watching.